Okay, our last part, teaching video part 4. I would like to explain about the determinants of supply. Okay, so before this, in teaching video part 3, you learn about determinants of demand. So meaning that faktor yang boleh mengubah demand. But for this one adalah factors that can change the supply curve. So same goes with supply curve. Okay, there are two factors yang boleh merubah supply curve. Pertama, price factors. Second is non-price factor. Price factor adalah price of the good itself. So same goes with demand lah. Cumanya you nak faham yang ni, for supply curve ni, you must think of yourself as a seller. Okay, if you think yourself as a seller, it will be much easier for you. Alright, so price factors adalah price of the good itself. It will result to the movement along the supply curve. So in this case, it is the supply curve, the upward sloping. Okay, quantity, price, right? So you need to know what types of supply curve that I'm drawing here. For example, supply of pen. So price of the good itself is price of pen. Okay, so here it said that if there is a change in the price of pen, price of the good itself, because we are talking about the supply of pen, it will result to a change on a movement along the supply curve. Meaning that the supply curve tak pergi mana-mana, dia static je, cumanya there will be a point of movement on the supply curve, along the supply curve. For example, if the price changes from RM1 to RM2, okay, so law of supply say if the price increases, quantity supply will also increases because seller goes for profit. If the price is expensive, they can get more profit. That's why they are willing to sell more. So if let's say for example at the price of RM1 they are willing to sell 100 pen, but when the price of RM2 the price increases, they will get more profit. They are willing to sell 200 pen. So what happened? It will change from this point to this point. So here it is called as movement upward along the supply curve. Okay, while if the opposite occurs, which is when the price decreases from RM3 to RM2, so law of supply say if the price increases, quantity supply automatically will go down, because as a seller you won't like to sell produk yang harga dia murah because your profit will decrease. So asalnya when the price is RM3, they are willing to sell 300 pen, but because of the price decrease to RM2, they are willing to sell only 200 pen, 2 to 200, 3 to 300. So what happened here? It moved from this point to this point. So we call this as movement downward along the supply curve. So further information, it is explained in slide. You have this slide, you can read, because this explanation is about marker, same explanation as mine. Okay, and then we go for the next one, non-price factor. For the demand, non-price factor will result to the shifting of the demand curve. Same goes with the supply. Okay, so what happened here, the supply curve will shift. Okay, so we have a supply curve here. Make sure you label everything when you draw. Price, quantity. Okay, so there will be a change in the supply curve, either going here or going here. So supply 1, the original one will be supply 0, and then this one kita label another one as supply 2. Okay, so this one yang selalu student confuse, which one shifting inward, which one shifting outward. Bear in mind, okay, if you confuse, jangan sesekali buat anak panah macam gini. Kalau you buat anak panah macam gini, you nampak ni naik ke atas. Kalau bawah sini you buat anak panah macam ni, you nampak dia turun ke bawah. So most student, sebab dia buat anak panah macam ni, what happen? Dia akan fikir this one shifting in, sebab dia turun, supply berkurang. No, be careful ya. So here, nak bagi senang, when the price is static, look at what happened here and here and here. Even though the quantity is not given there, you boleh make sense dah. Kosong. Kalau kat sini 20, mesti 40, kat sini 60. Takkanlah kat sini 20, kat sini 60 kan? As time goes by, the value will keep increasing. Tu tak, nilai makin naik kan? So, which one yang supply paling banyak? S1. So, meaning that, yang shifting outward, saya salah padam, adalah S1. Ini yang kita panggil shifting outward, ke kanan. So, be extra careful untuk mengurangkan keberhasilan yang you salah. Make sure you buat error ni betul. Arrow dia ni. Okay. Well, for this one, it's going there. The value is decreasing. Quantity supply is decreasing. So, this one we call as shifting inward. Okay, walaupun macam nampak naik ke atas, actually it's going to zero. The quantity supply is decreasing, right? So there are two options, either shifting out atau shifting in, and they have their own determinants there: cost of production, technological advancement, expectation of future price, number of seller, government policy in terms of taxes and subsidies, price of related good. Price of related goods same with the we learn about the demand. Ada dua, which is substitute goods, and second one adalah complementary goods. Okay, so this is the determinants of a seller that change the supply curve, so it relates to the seller. So it's not the same. Dekat buyer, determinant of demand kita, we go back there. This is the determinant of demand. Okay, there is no cost of production because as a buyer we are not producing goods. That's why that one is not determinant for buyer. So be careful, tak sama determinants of demand and determinants of supply. Determinants of demand relates to the buyer. Determinants of supply relates to the seller. So make sure you tak tertukar. And also the demand and supply curve pun make sure you tak tertukar. Okay, cost of production. So as a seller, you produce goods. Okay, so when the cost of production increases, will you be happy? For example kan, sekarang ni due to the inflation, harga tepung mahal. Saya buat goreng pisang. Harga tepung mahal, harga telur mahal, harga apa lagi? Garam mahal, semua, minyak pun mahal. Everything is expensive due to inflation. Increase in general price level of every goods and services in Malaysia, causing all the raw materials that are used in the production of my goreng pisang increases. So as a supplier now, will I be happy? No, I won't. Because due to the increase in the price of the raw material that I use in my production, I cannot produce as much as before. Okay, so with this slide, when the price of our raw material increases, because our cost of production will start to rise, with the same amount of capital, modal yang sama, we cannot produce as much as before. I mean seller lah, because I'm talking about supply. So nak bagi senang faham, you kena letak diri you sebagai seorang seller. So when the cost of production increases, what happened to our supply curve? Can we produce as much as before? Cannot. It will shift inward. Vice versa. For example, if the cost of production decreases, for example, government gives subsidies. Gula ada subsidi, tepung ada subsidi. So, when the government gives subsidi ni bantuan kepada pengeluar gula and tepung and so on. So, menyebabkan the price of the raw material decreases. As a seller, we are very happy because now we can produce much more with the same amount of capital. Kita ambil assumption our modal, our capital doesn't change. Okay, yang kedua adalah technological advancement. How does technological advancement relates to a seller? Because as a seller, you want to produce goods, you will use capital goods. Capital goods, I already explained it to you, machinery, goods to produce goods. Okay, so for example, as a peniaga goreng pisang, I will use kuali, any types of capital goods lah, dapur untuk menghasilkan goreng pisang. All of a sudden, there is a new technology to produce goreng pisang, which is ada dapur yang boleh menggoreng dalam masa yang singkat. Sebelum ni, kalau you goreng pisang tu dalam 15 ke 20 minit. Sekarang ni, because of the advancements of the technology, 5 minit goreng pisang masak. So, what happened there? As a producer, as a seller, you will be happy because with a short time period, you can produce much more compared to before. Sekarang ni 5 minit masak. So, demand orang tunggu kat depan kedai, kejap je, tak tunggu lama. So, customer tak lari. Okay? With the technological advancement, your production capability, you will be more efficient. You can produce much more. It will result to a shifting outward of the supply curve. While the opposite, if the technology destroyed, bukan teknologi makin mundur, destroyed. For example, all of a sudden we have tsunami ke, so banyak kilang-kilang musnah. Can we produce goods? No. Supply of any types of product will decrease and shifting inward. Okay. Next is expectation of future price. Okay, as a seller, we have expectation of future price also. Same goes with the demand. Okay, kalau you tengok determinants of demand, they have expectation of future price juga. Here, expectation of future price. Tapi this one is from the buyer perspective. But for this one, is from the seller perspective. So be careful. So expectation of future price here, meaning that what did the seller expect of the price of the product? Okay, for example, price of goreng pisang is expected to decrease next month because there are many sellers selling goreng pisang. Dah semua orang dah berminat nak menjual goreng pisang kan, ada macam-macam variasi, orang kata pembaharuan yang dia buat untuk goreng pisang, ada goreng pisang cheese and so on. So dulu saya seorang je berniaga kawasan tu, sekarang ni I have more sellers selling the same goreng pisang, same type of goreng pisang. So what happened? I expect the price of my goreng pisang will fall down lah, sebab banyak sangat pesaing. Kalau kita jual mahal, kita tak akan dapat customer. So when we expect the price of our future goreng pisang to go down, what happened to the supply now? So sekarang ni supply sekarang, expectation future price, how it affect the supply now, supply curve now. Okay, so as a seller, what will you do? You expect there will be more sellers selling the same product as you next week or next month. So what will you do? You akan cuba sedaya upaya memanfaatkan sekarang sementara you tak ada customer ni. So you will sell, bukan tak ada customer, you tak ada pesaing. So you will sell as much as you can. The supply curve will shift outward. All of a sudden, ada kabar angin mengatakan you supply a supplier of seller of mask. And then ada kabar angin mengatakan kita dah jumpa the cure for coronavirus. So you expect apa? In the future, the price of mask will go down because people don't need mask anymore. So as a seller, itu adalah expectation kan? So nowadays, sebelum vaksin tu available, what should you do? You akan cuba promote sehabis mungkin, hasilkan sebanyak mungkin so that you can sell your product while the price is still expensive. It will shift outward now. But if you expect the price of the product in the future will rise, you won't sell now. Kenapa nak jual sekarang? Sebab barang you tu akan naik pada waktu depan. So, you akan sabar dulu, jangan jual sekarang, jual pada waktu depan. So, what happened to the supply curve now? Shift inward. Okay? Next is number of seller. Okay? Do not explain this in terms of orang kata apa? Competition. No. It does not relate with competition. Ada student dia explain kat saya, madam, when we have more seller, so we have more competitor, so we won't sell. No, that's not relate with competition. Alright? So number of seller meaning that how many sellers selling the same product. So if we have more sellers selling the same product, what happened to the supply of the product in the market? So asalnya ada dua orang sahaja yang sell pen. So seorang hasilkan 1000 batang pen. So dua orang jadi 2000 kan in the market. All of a sudden orang tengok peniaga pen ni untung. And ada lagi dua orang join. All together now jadi 4. So jadi 4000 pen dah terhasil. Tadi saya cakap apa? Seorang hasilkan 1000 kan. So bila 4 jadi 4000 pen. So what happened to the supply of pen in the market? It will shift outward. More seller will result to more pen in the market. While if we have vice versa, less seller, for example, seller decided not to sell the product as the product is not demanded anymore. So what happened to the supply of the product in the market? It will shift inward. Okay? Well, in terms of government policy, in terms of taxes and subsidies, I think you can think of this on your own because taxes is the burden to the seller. Why? Because the government is taking your money. Betul tak? As a seller, you need to pay tax to the government so that the government has revenue in order to develop the country. But even though you know the outcome of tax is good, but as a seller, of course, when you need to pay to the government, your money is less, you will feel burdened. And what happened to the supply curve? You will shift inwards. Less good will be produced because of the taxes burden. While if the government decided to give subsidies to the producer, to the seller, okay, sekarang ni kita dapat subsidi, semua dapat bantuan daripada kerajaan. So what happened? It will cost us as a seller can produce more because we got the help from the government. It will cause our supply curve to shift outward. Okay, meanwhile, for the price of related good, okay, you need to know about the product. Okay, if it's substitute goods, meaning that the seller decided which one to sell. Substitute ni dia pilih mana satu nak jual. For example, antara apple and orange. So how to decide? Seller will sell the most expensive goods. If for example, this is supply of apple. Okay, it is price of related good. When we are drawing about apple, make sure you ambil harga orange. Jangan ambil harga apple. Price of related good tu. Kalau you ambil harga apple, dia akan jadi movement up and down. Barang yang sama, harga yang sama, movement. Kita nak buat jadi shifting. Okay, you need to look at the price of orange. All of a sudden, it said that the price of orange increase. So as a seller, which product will you sell? You will sell orange, right? Because orange is expensive, you can get more profit. As a seller, you have two products to choose, either to sell orange or apple. So you will choose to sell orange. So what happened to the supply of apple? It will shift inward. Because now you won't sell apple because you will sell orange. Okay? And you can apply this to other example. For example, Milo and coffee. If the price of tengoklah barang apa kat sini kan. Kalau barang kat sini adalah coffee, you kena tengok harga Milo. So harga Milo turun. So what happened to the supply of coffee? Shifting outward. You will sell coffee. You tak akan jual Milo sebab Milo murah. You tak akan dapat profit. Okay. While for complementary goods, okay, this is the goods that you need to sell together. For example, if you sell pen, you must sell ink. So kalau you sell pen saja without ink, nobody will purchase. This is the good that you need to sell together. Sama je macam demand yang saya explain before. Itu adalah barang, kalau complementary for demand, barang you kena beli sekali. Tapi kalau complementary untuk supply, barang you kena jual sekali. Ada you tengok orang jual pen without ink? Tak ada. Tak akan ada orang beli. So, this good relates with each other. If the price of, you need to know what types of supply you're drawing here. Okay, so for example, I'm talking about the supply of pen. So, harga apa yang saya nak tengok? Price of related good. Tak boleh tengok pen sebab kita nak buat shifting. Kita tengok price of ink. Alright? So, if the price of ink increase as a seller, will you be happy? Yes, of course, I will get more profit. So, what happened to the supply of pen? It will shift outward. You will sell pen also because pen and ink come together. If you want to sell ink, you will also sell pen. So, it's shifting outward. Vice versa, if I use another example, for example, two goods that must be sold together, which is the battery and torchlight. Okay, so here it is the supply of torchlight. Alright, so kita akan tengok the price of battery. Price of battery. The thing is, in this case, it mentioned that the price of battery turun. Macam mana dia tahu dia turun? Tak, saya reka je. So you kena tengok nanti soalan dia macam mana. Okay, if the price of battery decreases, will you sell battery? No, you won't get profit. So what happened to the supply of torchlight? Will you sell torchlight? You won't sell torchlight. So what happened to the supply of torchlight? It will shift inward. Okay guys, are you okay with that? So that's it. And the explanation is in here. Everything is in here. So rajin-rajinkan membaca. Okay? And untuk betul-betul faham, you must do the exercise, do the sample question. Okay? I will make another teaching video just to help you with the exercise, the question, the past year's question. Sebab this teaching video tak nak panjang-panjang nanti you akan start lemau nanti. Okay, alright, so let's meet in our last teaching video. This one won't be the last one.